Hi guys, Kevin with Pangea. I've got a new show for you here. We're going to be comparing products common to the hobby to give you a better understanding of what's going to work best for you. This week, we're going to be comparing T8s and T5s. Many reptiles require UVA and UVB, especially diurnal species like day geckos, uromastyx, bearded dragons, monitors, iguanas, just to name a few. The UVA is really important to their sensory perception. Since they can see in UVA, it's important for them to have that available to them so they can actually see their surroundings. And UVB is actually really important to many animals' ability to create vitamin D3, which is an integral part to metabolizing calcium, which prevents diseases like metabolic bone disease and creates healthier reptiles. Both of these types of bulbs operate nearly identically. Linear fluorescent tubes have electrodes at each end, and when powered, a current is sent into the tube, which is filled with an inert gas like argon, as well as mercury vapor. When the mercury atoms are excited, they emit visible light, UVA, UVB, as well as some infrared. When that energy hits the coating on the glass, it fluoresces, and that's where it gets the name fluorescent tube. Now let's go over some of the details about T8s. You can find them from many brands like Arcadia Reptile, ZooMed, Zilla, Exoterra. You can find them in wattages from 14 up to 38, and you can find them in lengths from 15 inches all the way up to 48 inches. They range in price from about $23 to like $25, depending on how long of the bulb. Some of the pros for T8s is that they have a low energy consumption. The color of their light resembles the color of the sun's light, as well as their optimal operating temperature is a nice low 77 degrees. Some of the downsides to T8s is that they have a low UVI output for distance compared to some other UVB bulbs, as well as a lower lumens output compared to many other bulbs, as well as there's a flicker sometimes that can be observed, especially when recording on camera. If you're liking this content, please like and subscribe and let us know what other videos we can make for you. Let's talk about some of the details about T5s. So you can get them from brands like Arcadia and ZooMed, and in the future you'll be able to get them from Pangea as well. They come in wattages from 8 to 54. You can get them in sizes from 12 inches up to 48 inches, and they range in price from about $20 to $40. Some of the pros for T5s is that they have a high lumen output, a high UV index, they don't flicker, and they have an optimal operating temperature closer to 95 degrees, which can be handy for hotter rooms and hotter enclosures. Some of the downsides to T8s is that they tend to be a little more expensive. They're not available from quite as many brands, and the color temperature of them is slightly bluer than a T8. Now let's do a head-to-head comparison of the T8s and T5s. To try to eliminate as many variables as possible, we're going to use Arcadia for both, 12% for both, and the 24-inch T8 and the 22-inch T5. So one of the main differences people notice when comparing T5s and T8s is the difference in diameter. The T8s are 1 inch in diameter. That is 8/8 of an inch. That's where the 8 comes from. The T5s are 5/8 of an inch, and that's where the name comes from for T5. One of the other first things people notice about the difference between T5s and T8s is the lengths. T8s are always just a little bit longer, where the T5s are just a little bit shorter. The lengths for T8s is the same length as the T5 fixtures usually. This is where the comparison becomes a little bit more divergent. T5s have a higher wattage for each comparable model. This effectively means more power. Kelvin, or the color temperature of the two bulbs, is a little bit different. T8 is around 6600, where the T5s is closer to 7,000. So the T8 better resembles the light that we perceive from the sun, where the T5 is going to be a little bit bluer. Neither of these are bad for your reptiles, but it is going to change the appearance of your enclosure. As you can see in this chart here, the T5s have double the amount of lumens as the T8. This effectively means much brighter enclosure, where this isn't going to be a huge deal, but for crepuscular and nocturnal species, it could be unnecessary to have such a bright enclosure. But if you did have plants in your enclosure, for the most part, they're gonna like T5s more, and you can think of it as more available energy for your plants using a T5. Although on this chart you can see that both of these products have the same UVA and same UVB, 30 and 12%. And although these are the same numbers, as you can see by the UVI, which is the ultraviolet index, that the T5 at the same distance as the T8 has a higher UV index. This means that it's putting out more UVB and takes less distance for that UVB to reach your animal. This isn't necessarily good or bad, it's just a difference in output. We can also compare the energy usage of these two bulbs. As you can see in the chart, the T8 uses less energy at 22 kilowatts per hour by 1,000 hours. Let's continue the comparison with price, availability, and overall effectiveness. There was a time in the hobby when T5s was a new technology and it was significantly more expensive than T8s, where now they're a lot more comparable in price, but we will have to give the edge to T8s narrowly. Although T8s are available from more brands than T5s, you can get both of them at reptile expos, pet stores, and online retailers like Pangea Reptile. In fact, you can get all of the products that were featured on the table today from us online. We'll put links in the description for you. When it comes to output and effectiveness, there's no question that the T5 is the winner, but this doesn't make the T8 obsolete. When shopping for UV for your reptile, it's important to consider the UV index that your reptile requires, as well as the distance from the bulb to the basking zone. Many manufacturers have diagrams on their website and sometimes on their packaging that explain the UV index to distance that bulb puts out. Take, for example, this bearded dragon diagram from Arcadia Reptile. As you can see, the T5 and the T8 that we were just comparing can both be used just as effectively at different distances from the basking zone for the same animal. To wrap it up, the T5 does have a higher output, and in many situations it's going to be the better bulb, especially if you're looking for high lumens and high energy. But the T8 is going to be just as effective in certain situations and maybe even better in situations depending on what your reptile is. I'd highly recommend checking out manufacturers' websites and their specifications, as well as using tools like Arcadia's lighting guide to help you determine what is the best bulb for your animal in your enclosure. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you liked the video. Please let us know what other videos you'd like us to make, other products you want us to compare, or whatever you'd like us to feature. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.